The Grand Canyon is one of the greatest natural wonders on the planet, overwhelming and awe-inspiring. In this episode, we start in Phoenix, known as the Valley of the Sun, then discover the red rock formations of Sedona, and then spend a few days in the Grand Canyon, sculpted by the wind and water of millions of years.
We are Hannah and Jeremy, and this is the fourth and final video in our Western Road Trip series. We began the trip in Utah, exploring Bryce Canyon National Park and Zion National Park. We then headed to Arizona to visit Monument Valley, and next on to Colorado to ride the historic Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad.
This leg of our trip begins in Phoenix. We had the pleasure of staying at the Phoenician, a Marriott luxury collection resort. We did not pay for our stay here. Jeremy is lucky enough to work for a company that hosted a conference here, and I just tagged along to enjoy. This is a 5-diamond hotel, and the rooms range from $800 to $1,300. The main hotel offers a resort-style pool. We stayed over at the Canyon Suites, which also has a private pool for the suite guests only. The Canyon Suites are just a little ways away from the main hotel, separated by the cactus garden. According to the hotel, it showcases over 250 varieties of cacti and succulents.
Our room was spacious and comfortable with some really nice amenities. This is the kind of place that's just fancy enough that when the housekeeping comes in to clean, they organize the bathroom counter for you. I think maybe I enjoyed the view most of all. We had a direct view of the Phoenix airport and got quite a show at sunset.
Once Jeremy was done with his adult responsibilities, we spent more time exploring Phoenix outside of the hotel. First visiting the Desert Botanical Garden. Admission is $33 per person, and this is a 140-acre garden dedicated to showcasing diverse plant life and desert environments, particularly in the Sonoran Desert. The garden was founded in 1939 by the Arizona Cactus and Native Flora Society, spearheaded by Swedish botanist Gustav Strack, who recognized the need to conserve and study desert plants. We were lucky to visit during the seasonal exhibit at the Butterfly Pavilion, where there are hundreds of butterflies fluttering around amidst the native plants.
Today, the garden is home to over 50,000 plants, representing more than 4,000 species from desert regions around the world. The collection includes cacti and succulents, including towering saguaros, prickly pears, agaves, and barrel cacti. When it was approaching dusk, we headed towards a popular spot to watch sunset, the Hole in the Rock, only about a 10-minute drive from the garden.
Hole in the Rock is a natural sandstone formation featuring a large eroded hole near its peak. Formed over millions of years by wind and water, it was likely used by the Hohokam people as a solar calendar. This site is popular at sunset and sunrise because it offers panoramic views of Phoenix and the surrounding desert. The hike to the top is short and an easy trail leading up to the hole. You can also climb through and perch yourself on the other side and sit back and wait for the show.
The next day, we headed towards Sedona. It took us about 2 hours to drive to Sedona from Phoenix. This area is known for its towering red sandstone cliffs, its scenic canyons, and lush forests, making this a wildly popular hiking destination. We were only planning on passing through for a short afternoon, so we downloaded an in-car tour guide which led us on a scenic drive and gave us a lot of interesting information about the area.
Beyond its striking scenery, Sedona is renowned for its spiritual significance, particularly the energy vortexes, locations believed to emit powerful healing energy. This spiritual energy also draws religious organizations to the area, resulting in the building of the Chapel of the Holy Cross. Many believe these vortex sites enhance meditation, self-reflection, and personal transformation, with each vortex spot said to have its own unique energy flows. While some describe physical sensations like tingling or warmth at those spots, others, like us, simply appreciate the peaceful and awe-inspiring landscapes. The Chapel of the Holy Cross is an iconic architectural landmark built directly into the red rock formations. It was commissioned by Marguerite Staud, a local artist and devout Catholic, who was inspired by the construction of the Empire State Building in the 1930s. The church is part of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Phoenix, but serves as a non-denominational place for prayer and reflection. The chapel is a popular spiritual and tourist destination offering breathtaking views of Sedona's red rock landscapes.
Sedona also has very strict rules for businesses in its town, requiring them to all comply with the color scheme of the area. This resulted in big, recognizable brands having to make changes to their typical storefronts and logos, like McDonald's here, that has only turquoise arches, rather than the typical golden arches that you would see anywhere else. We continued our drive on to the Grand Canyon, taking another hour and a half, headed towards a little snowstorm. It might sound a little odd to think of snow and Arizona together, but the south rim of the Grand Canyon, which sits at about 7,000 feet, gets an average of 50 to 100 inches, or about 120 to 250 centimeters of snow per year. Snowfall is most common from November through March, with occasional heavy storms blanketing the park. This part of our trip was in early November, so it was just a small dusting.
We stayed at the In History Grand Canyon location. It is in Williams, about an hour south of the entrance to the national park. The cabins were very comfortable and spacious with a little kitchenette. We loved that they also really embraced the essence of the area with a lot of the local and historic touches. The coolest part was the art pieces they had around. They all included a QR code that would take you to a website where you could read more about the works and how they're related to the history of the Grand Canyon. The next morning, we made the drive north to visit the park itself. It can be kind of confusing when looking at a map of the park, so for our trip, we programmed the GPS to take us to the park entrance, and then headed towards the famous Mather's Point. We next headed to the Grand Canyon Village, and then took the scenic drive down to the Desert View Watchtower. We used the same Action Tour Guide app, which we did in Sedona, at the park. It gave us both directions, must-see destinations, and historic information along the drive.
Welcome to the Grand Canyon National Park. As one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, the Grand Canyon offers some of the best views that nature has to offer. There are 3 versions of this tour, each with the same content but a different starting point. This version starts outside the park's south entrance. If you'd like to start in Canyon Village or at the east entrance, go ahead.
Admission to the Grand Canyon is similar to most national parks at $35 per car. If you saw our last videos, you know that we did both Bryce Canyon and Zion this year, so getting the National Park Pass made sense for us as they are only $80 for a full year of park admissions. Mather Point is one of the most popular and easily accessible viewpoints on the South Rim and is located near the Visitor Center, often making it the first stop for many visitors. The viewpoint offers breathtaking panoramic views of the canyon's vast expanse, with layered rock formations stretching as far as your eye can see. We struggled with even comprehending just the sheer vastness of what we were seeing. It is at an elevation of over 7,000 feet or 2,134 meters, and it offers one of the best perspectives of the canyon's depth, with the Colorado River faintly visible off in the distance.
Named after Stephen Mather, the first director of the National Park Service, Mather Point serves as a tribute to his efforts in preserving national parks. Due to its proximity to parking and the visitor facilities, it can be crowded. But if you want to avoid the crowds, come in one of the lower seasons like at wintertime, which is when we were there. We also want to take a moment to recognize the tireless efforts of the National Park Service employees. If you disagree with the current efforts to cut funding for these parks and the staff's tireless work to help protect these public lands, we will put some resources in the descriptions for how to take action and make your voice heard. We visited the visitor center to escape the cold for a few minutes. We then headed over to the park store and picked up our stamp. I should probably get a passport, but they always have little slips of paper, so I just collect them and throw them up on a corkboard when I get home.
Grand Canyon is estimated to be around 5 to 6 million years old in its current form, with the Colorado River carving through layers of rock over time. However, the rock layers themselves are much, much older, with some of them even dating back nearly 2 billion years, making them among the oldest exposed rocks on Earth. Geologists believe that the canyon's formation was influenced by tectonic uplift, erosion, and river activity, gradually shaping the dramatic landscape that you see today. As we got close to sunset, we headed towards the Desert View Watchtower, a 70-foot, 21-meter stone tower built in 1932 by the architect Mary Coulter. The tower was designed to resemble an ancient ancestral Puebloan watchtower, with intricate murals inside painted by Hopi artist Fred Cabote. If we had arrived earlier in the day, we could have climbed to the top and explored its historic interior, which celebrates Native American culture and craftsmanship, but we'll have to save that for next time.
For sunset, we settled in at Moran Point, which offers a wide panoramic view of the canyon's depths and the Colorado River below. Named after the 19th century artist Thomas Moran, considered the artistic master of the conservation movement, he painted the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, and the Rocky Mountains, just to name a few. The next day we spent in Williams, close to our hotel, and explored Route 66. The town offers a nostalgic glimpse into America's Mother Road and the classic diners, neon signs, and vintage motels lining the historic stretch. Williams is known as the gateway to the Grand Canyon and was one of the last Route 66 towns to be bypassed by Interstate 40 in the 1980s. The town of Radiator Springs in the Pixar movie Cars was heavily inspired by several real-life Route 66 towns, including Williams, Arizona, and other towns along the historic highway. Williams shares many similarities with Radiator Springs, and like in Cars, the real-life town struggled economically after being bypassed by Interstate 40, but later saw a revival thanks to tourism and nostalgia.
For our last stop in the area, we spent a few hours at Bearizona, a wildlife park that offers close-up encounters with North American animals in a drive-through and walk-through setting. The park spans 160 acres and features animals in their natural habitats. The drive-through section is the park's main attraction, kind of like a safari-style experience, but you drive your own vehicle or a rental vehicle through 3 miles of scenic wilderness. Along the route, you'll encounter a variety of North American wildlife, including black bears, bison, wolves, Rocky Mountain elk, mule deer, and bighorn sheep, all roaming freely in spacious natural enclosures. To ensure the safety of both you and the animals, you must keep the windows rolled up and stay inside your vehicles while driving through the predator areas. This included areas like the wolves and the bears. The bears are known to often walk near or even cross in front of vehicles, so you obviously have to drive slow and pay close attention.
Over half of the animals that call Bearizona home at one point lived in the wild. For many different reasons, like human interactions or injuries, these animals are deemed non-releasable by state or federal wildlife agencies. Once they're there, they will spend the remainder of their lives in large, naturalistic enclosures, educating guests on what roles these different species play in the ecosystem and why it is important to keep wildlife wild. After the drive-through section, you park and start exploring Fort Bearizona, a walkable area with smaller animals, a petting zoo, and a daily animal show. We caught the 2 p.m. show and got to see some of the enrichments for animals, including the Harris hawk, the trumpeter hornbill, crested sierramina named Chopsticks, and an adorable raccoon. Thanks for joining us on this journey out west. Next time we pick back up on the East Coast with a cruise on one of the newest cruise ships in the world, and we make a New Year's trip to Kentucky. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you want YouTube to let you know when we share those adventures.
Thanks for watching!